the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, welcome to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast, where I am trying to spread awareness about what it is like living with chronic disease. I've been living with multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. I talk about my journey as well as the journey of other chronic disease warriors all over the world, just to try to help people to understand what it does to us, how it affects our lives, how it affects family. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you are watching it on. And share it out. We want to be understood, and the best way to be understood is to listen to our journeys. Today, I went back up north to my favorite state of Michigan, where I spent 4 years of my life playing football at the U of M, and I am talking to a fellow Michigan graduate that was diagnosed with his MS in 2021, and he wanted to come on and talk about his journey. Please welcome to the podcast, Mamoud. How you doing, buddy?
Great. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing all right. Mamoud, man, I just met you, a couple days ago, and I heard your story, and I was just blown away. First of all, how you got diagnosed, how quick you got diagnosed, and I know you're going to get into that. But just kind of take us through your journey of how you ended up with your diagnosis of MS in 2021. What kind of symptoms you were having that threw up the red flag that something wasn't right?
Yeah, so I decided to travel in 2021, April of 2021 to California. And on my way back, I caught coronavirus or COVID-19. And while I had COVID-19, pretty much I got diagnosed with MS. I first started losing vision in my right eye, I noticed. And I thought it would go away. But my mom does have a friend that's an ophthalmologist. And so when I discussed my vision loss with my mom, because I just woke up with vision loss all of a sudden one morning after my COVID-19 diagnosis, and I let my mom know about it, and she has a friend that's an ophthalmologist. I went to her office, and she did some tests on me, and we found out that I was colorblind from one eye, and that was a scary situation. Finding out at the office right away that I have color blindness, I was losing color.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was something maybe temporary, or if it goes away, like a fuzzy in the eye, or something, yeah, that could go away overnight. But she looked inside my eye and she observed my optic nerve, and she said that it was very swollen to her.
Yeah.
That she's concerned because my right eyeball behind it, there's the optic nerve, which is responsible for sending signals from the eyeball to the brain. And she wanted me to do an emergency MRI right away, the same day. And so I went ahead and went to the MRI center and did an MRI. And she called me maybe 2 hours, I want to say, later after I did the MRI.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that I had 32 brain lesions and that she's concerned. Well, first, she was very nice about it. She said, "What are you doing right now, actually?" And I was like, "I'm driving." She's like, "Well, you want to pull over?" And so that in itself, from that kind of introduction, I was like, "Oh my God, is she going to tell me I have cancer or something, or what's going on?" Like,
Right.
at that point, I was thinking the worst possible situation. Like, I was thinking cancer,
Yeah.
really. Do I have a brain tumor? I have my dad's little brother. He died from a brain tumor at a young age in his 30s and 40s. Like, I think he died at 42 years old,
Yeah.
but he was diagnosed with a brain tumor at 38. So I don't know why my brain was, I was thinking cancer. And even when she looked at my eye and said that there was a swollen optic nerve, right away I asked her if it was a brain tumor, but she didn't answer me. She said it could be something else. That's why I want you to do the MRI.
Right.
And so pretty much that number, 32 brain lesions, I didn't understand, like, why is there so much disturbance in my brain? What's going on? She said, well, you have signs of MS. And at that point, well, when I pulled over, I was like, what is MS? What is this?
Yeah.
And she said it's a disease of the central nervous system and attacks your brain and the spinal cord. You're going through an episode right now, or like a clinically isolated syndrome.
Hmm.
You can call it a relapse, but because it was my first time getting um,
Having,
symptoms,
yeah, right,
I was having something they classify as CIS, which is called clinically isolated syndrome.
right, right.
And I rushed to the emergency, and when I went to the emergency, they took me up to the neurologist, and the neurologist suggested that I have to do a spinal tap. And mind you, as I'm getting diagnosed with all this, from the ophthalmologist to the MRI, from the MRI to the emergency room, from the emergency room to the neurologist, the disease or the MS kept attacking my brain and my like body. My whole body was being attacked by this disease, and it was like a burning sensation
Mm.
all over my body. I can't explain to you how painful that time of my life was. So much pain, like nerve pain in my bones, all over my skin. It was just like getting dipped in molten lava is the best way I could explain it to you. Like, it was a severe burning pain, and I just didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah,
And
how old were you, Mahmoud, when you were going through all this?
32 years old.
Man, oh day. I know I was
Yeah,
27. I was 27 when I got my diagnosis, and I went through a lot of the similar, not all the pain that you went through, but like the
oh, severe pain.
with the vision. I mean, with the vision, and I was scared, and I got to believe that you were scared too. It sounds like you were scared at that time. And,
Oh, it was very scary. It was a nightmare, actually.
yeah, because I mean, you didn't understand the disease. You didn't understand what was going on. I mean, so after you got that diagnosis, how did you like just like start to learn about the disease?
Right away, I started researching the disease, and I was told so many facts from my parents about the disease and what it can do to you and things like that. And I was researching online a lot, and I was very concerned with, because there's no cure, to this disease. So,
Yeah, the one thing I'm hearing here, Mahmoud, is that you got your diagnosis quick, and I think that is like really important, and I think the really cool part of the story when we were talking yesterday is you got that help from your mom and your dad because of what they did. They're physical therapists,
right.
and they came over here from Saudi Arabia,
That's right.
and
That's right.
and they built their business and all that, and thank God that you were their son, because they had those connections and that, and to get you in and get you seen, and to get you help,
Yeah, I was
and
truly blessed.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so when I went to the neurology center, or the neurology floor at McLaren Hospital, I I was diagnosed by spinal tap. Like, that was 100% how they found out. He came and did the spinal tap on me, and that situation was a little bit hectic. I didn't know what was going to happen when this needle was going to be poked inside my spinal cord.
yeah,
I was wondering if there's any other way they could diagnose me, but I had to do what they had to do, and I ended up doing the spinal tap. It was an uncomfortable feeling. I want to say it wasn't painful, but it was very uncomfortable mentally, just knowing that they were doing that. And that same day, they came back and they told me I have RRMS, which is relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis,
wow,
and there's no cure. And so when I did get diagnosed, at the same time, I was going through a lot of psychological issues. So after the spinal tap, I was going a little bit crazy. I went a little nuts in the hospital,
yeah,
and they admitted me to the psych unit for upstairs. So that was kind of a terrible experience, because I was getting attacked by this disease,
yeah,
and I was going through a lot of mental health crisis, because I literally lost it. And I know it's rare with MS from the research that I did, but I literally got into psychotic state of mind, psychosis,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to hallucinate,
Yeah.
and I started to hear things. I started to see things, and I started to yell at the the workers there at the hospital, the nurses and everybody, and
Yeah.
they had to admit me to psych, and that was probably the worst time of my life, man. Like he's not knowing what's going on, losing my mind literally, and
Right.
not knowing what this disease is gonna do to me, you know.
And they're treating one symptom right now, the mental health part of it, and they're still not even treating the MS part of it. So you're not even getting like the Salumedrol, the steroids, because they're trying to get your state of mind right.
No, while I was in the psych unit, they were giving me prednisone.
Okay, so they were still getting you. Okay, so they were still treating your
Yeah,
MS. Okay, okay,
yeah. So
man,
the
oh man,
neurologist was working with the psych. They were working together,
man,
and they
oh
just
man,
kept giving me. At first, they gave me an IV of prednisone before I was admitted to the psych, but then they switched me to the tablet, the pills,
yeah,
and that calmed down the MS a little bit. But it was a burning sensation. The optic neuritis was crazy. Optic neuritis was taking over, and the vision loss was heavy at that point. You know,
yeah, and just the vision
yeah,
loss in itself. I mean, that scared the shit out of me when I was at 27 years old, Mahmoud. I can't even imagine what you're going through, in the psychosis and the mental health and all that. I mean, you had to be scared, buddy. I can't even imagine it.
absolute nightmare is the best way I could describe it to you. Absolute nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I know you got great family support with your mom and dad. I mean, I'm sure they were there every step of the way. How did they even understand what was going on with you? I mean, they're medical professionals, they're physical therapists. I mean, did they
Right.
understand what they were watching, what was going on with their son?
At that point, I didn't know if they understood, but my mom and dad have been around people that have MS, and nobody really understands this disease. I feel like, yeah, unless if you have it, you know.
Yeah.
But they're familiar with it, like I say. But to truly understand MS, you have to have MS to really understand, to grasp the disease, the level of disease, and how powerful this disease is and what it could do to you.
Yeah.
It's really unexplainable in words, you know.
Yeah, it's very hard to describe. I know I've struggled my whole life with this disease, just trying to explain it to people. I mean, it got to the point where I didn't even really expect people to even ask me about it because I didn't have an answer. I mean, you don't really have a way of explaining, when your toes feel like they're on fire. I mean, that's my best way. It's like I'm putting my feet inside of a fire, and, I have to live with that 24/7. And I just got to find a way to manage it in my head because I know it's never going to go away. And,
Right,
and I think that's the hardest part with this disease is, especially when you're young in the diagnosis and you're only diagnosed for a couple of years, is your head spinning, like, cause you don't know what the hell your body's doing. It's attacking you, and you're just trying to figure it out. And you want everything to slow down, and it doesn't want to slow down. And how did you get out of that psychosis state and just start fighting the fight, Mamoud?
it took a while. It took about a week or so in the psych unit there until the attacks, the flare-ups or the attacks calmed down a little bit. It was still attacking my body, but it calmed down a lot more maybe a week later after the prednisone, and they cut me off all of a sudden from the prednisone. And there was a period there from the hospital when I got discharged until I got my disease modifying therapy, where I was confused because the MS was still attacking me somewhat lightly, but it wasn't as bad as when I was in the hospital. But I could just feel electric impulses throughout my body and in my arms, at my fingertips, tingly sensations that I've never felt before, and just my body was acting up, and I was confused why I wasn't put on a DMT right away. But like from at the hospital, but
Right.
maybe I was 30 days later, they got me on this drug they call Ocrevus,
Hmm.
and I've been on it now for 5 years, and I'm glad to say I have had no new lesions from the MRI since I've been on this
That's awesome.
Ocrevus.
Man, that's so good
Yeah.
to hear, man. I hope it goes like that for another 55 years for you, Mahmoud. Man,
Thank you.
it,
Thank you so much.
how's your body tolerating the Ocrevus? How did you do on the loading doses and all that? And I
Yes.
mean, did you have any kind of side effects with it?
Oh yes. Oh yes. So the first time I got Ocrevus, I was in the infusion, and they gave me Benadryl, and I was confused why I was getting Benadryl, but soon I found out why. My throat started burning me, and it was like a very hard, it's a hard time because I was confused why my throat was burning me while I'm getting MS
Yeah.
medication, and so they had to slow down the rate of the medication and give me more Benadryl, and that helped out.
Mahmoud, man, I'm glad they got that figured out for you on that Ocrevus infusion, my brother. So what after they got everything figured out and they got you on the Ocrevus, did you regain any of your vision loss when your initial symptom that actually caused the red flag? Did you get any of that vision back?
Yes, I got most of it back, but some of it was permanent, and I didn't regain my central vision in my right eye. So I want to say I'm probably 10 or 15% blind central vision wise. And people ask me like describe my blindness or what my vision looks like. The best thing I could say is like best way I could describe it is like a jellyfish in the way of your vision
Yep.
everywhere you look, and it's in the middle of your vision. It's like a weird jellyfish looking
Okay,
blur. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I can relate to you, Mahmoud. Here's my description of that jellyfish. I get that when I have an episode with my eyes, because optic neuritis is one of my nemesis with MS. It's been one of my biggest problems from day one, and it still is to this day. And when I have an episode and it's my vision's affected, I would always describe it to my neurologist. I'm like, I have an amoeba in my vision. And it that I don't know why I use that as my analogy, but I'm like, it reminded me of back when I was in biology class looking through a microscope, at cells like that amoeba. And I'm like, that's what I see in my vision, that central vision. And that's what indicated I was having an episode, and he'd get me on Solumedrol, and it would end up going away eventually. But I mean, that's how that I guess that's the description of my optic neuritis. So, Mahmoud, let me ask you this. I know you were 30, I don't know, you said what, 30 years old when you got diagnosed?
32 years old.
32, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're 32 years old. You already were graduated from the University of Michigan and you already had your career going. And I love this part about the story because a lot of us, when we get this chronic disease, we lose our employment when we work for an employer. Either they don't want to accommodate us or, just our MS takes us out. And I've loved the fact that, you were smart enough, I guess, and ambitious enough to make yourself comfortable, I would say, with your investments and all that. And talk a little bit about that because I just think that's awesome. And you went after a dream, you got it, and now you got your diagnosis. You don't have that stress, and that is huge. Just talk a little bit about your career.
Yeah. So back in 2012, after I graduated, I invested into a mechanic shop, and I got into the mechanic shop business, the repair facility, and it was pretty successful. And I uh, renovated the place and ended up selling it in 2017. And then I expanded to a bigger shop that had more bays and more car lifts and whatnot. And ever since my diagnosis, I don't manage shops anymore. Like I don't work at the shop, but I'm lucky enough to have owned these businesses. Like I'm the landlord, and I rent them out, and I have great tenants. At the shop right now, great mechanics that do good work, and
Yeah.
I'm proud of them, and they help me a lot, and that's something beneficial I have in my life. I don't have too much financial problems,
Amen,
and
man. I just
yeah,
love that you did that for yourself, and I envy you, but I think it's awesome. I just because that there's such a financial struggle, and
oh yeah,
even though you have MS, you
yeah,
have that kind of like that shelter, and I just love that, man. I love that you were able to do that. Bravo to you. I've talked to other MSers and recorded with them. They're in similar situations. I think that's awesome. I just love it. You know, because a lot of times we hear not good things. You know, people, you know, they lose their all their income. You know, they lose houses over this and everything else. And I just think it's awesome that you have that. At least you have that a little bit of a comfort zone.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely a blessing, and I have to give credit to my parents. I have very good parents that helped me a lot, and I'm blessed with two successful parents that are physical therapists. And in the beginning, had uh, they had hope for me, and I definitely got assistance from them financially to attain these businesses that I own today. So I have
Sure.
to definitely give credit to my mom and dad.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. You know, and that's an important part of this journey, Mahmoud, is our support system, you know, our family, our friends, our circle that we have, you know, and that's just awesome that you have parents like that that were able to help you out and to get you started with your dream and you built it after that. And now you have it and now that's your cushion. Like I said, that's your comfort zone. And that's just awesome that you got that, buddy. So
yes, thank you so much.
no problem, man. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about, we were talking about your mom and dad. Let's talk about your family. Let's talk about relationships. How is that, how's this disease affected relationships with family members, with your friends, and even like if you're dating or anything like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I got into a state of depression for a while after my diagnosis, and I really didn't want to talk to anyone. It was like a isolation feeling. The disease takes over, and then you feel isolated, and before you know it, you're spending a lot of time at home indoors, and you don't feel like really going out anymore. Like life changes after the diagnosis. It's not the same anymore, and you start making up excuses, and I can't go out, and people don't understand why, or
Mm.
if there's any events happening, social events like a wedding, for example, or if I have to travel far away, the people don't understand, the illness, the chronic illness that I have. So I definitely did a lot of isolation, and it affected me, my social life, my social circle with friends and family. And so that's part of it.
It is. It is. I mean, it's a part that sucks. I mean, I always tell everybody, you know, I had a really, really big circle after I graduated from Michigan, being a former football player, and you know, everybody's. You have a lot of friends, and you know, since I've been diagnosed after I got done playing, 27 years old, and you know, I still had a solid circle of friends, but as my disease progressed, and I started cutting things out, you know, not being able to do things, not being able to golf like I used to, not being able to go out and have fun in the bars like I used to. I mean, I don't really have that. That circle has tightened up drastically. And, you know, I mean, that's part of this journey too. But you always have that core that are always going to be with you. You know, I have that handful of friends that are going to be there for me. And it's really important in this journey. It's really important.
I definitely agree with you. It's very important for sure. And I'm glad I'm getting to know more people with MS through technology and the internet, and apps like TikTok or Instagram have helped me build a social circle with strangers that have MS, but now they're no longer strangers. I feel like I'm actually friends with these people. So
You know, and that's a perfect segue into the next question I was going to ask you is, you know, how you stay motivated and you know you keep on fighting this fight. You're new, you're scared, and we found each other on TikTok. You know, I met you just a couple of days ago, and you know we're sitting here talking and recording. Yeah, I mean, and that's just. I think it's important. You know, it doesn't like we had this conversation before we recorded. It doesn't matter what part of the world we live in. It doesn't matter what race we are. It doesn't matter the religion or political view. You know, we all have this disease, and TikTok is awesome that you know we can all just understand. You know that we have a problem, and everything that's outside of our problem, I like to block it out because the main focus is that we want people to understand what the hell it's like living with this disease. You know, and that's why I appreciate you and your friendship and and that we found on TikTok, you know, and talk to me about the importance of that community on TikTok to you, being so new in your disease and how it's just helped you.
yes, it was very important. I get on it almost every day now, just to talk to my MS warriors, and I'm really happy and proud that I got to meet all these wonderful folks on there, and I'm learning more things every day and gaining actually a lot of education about MS and the different conditions that people have with this disease, and it's been a great adventure so far. And for example, I met a kind lady. Her name is Holly, and she let me know about this program through uh, Colorado, the state of Colorado, and it's called firstdescents.org, for
Mhm.
example. She told me about this program where they take people with MS or cancer on a adventure, and they have different adventures. They're like week-long adventures, and it's completely sponsored. It's for free. They pay for your flight, your food, your everything else, and you don't have to worry about anything financial. And you could only do it one time though, and you have to be under the age of 39. And she told me about this. I'm 37 years old, and I was very interested, and I signed up. Unfortunately, it's October now, and they only run from April to September. But I'm excited for next year to sign up when they have openings for an adventure somewhere in Seattle or Washington, Colorado, California, or wherever they have these adventures. And that's something um,
We don't get to do.
educational or something beneficial that
Yeah.
Holly on TikTok let me know. And if I never went online and met people, other people with MS, I would have never known about this program they have for people with MS or cancer, where they completely sponsor the whole trip, your stay, your food, everything. And I'm really happy, and I think that's a wonderful program they have. I sent you a link as well.
I think that's an amazing program. I know Holly too. I talk to her a lot on TikTok and even offline. And she's an amazing lady. And that program, First Descent, I will definitely put that in the podcast description, the link of it, if you want to check that out. Unfortunately, I'm 55, so I'm not eligible for it. But I think it's awesome that there's an organization out there that does that for people with MS because we're strapped for money. I mean, most of us can't afford to go on vacations and do things like that. And to have an organization that does that, I just think that's unbelievable. It's an awesome, awesome thing.
Yes, and I think it's important for people that are diagnosed with MS to reach out to a community, anything, an app or Facebook or what have you, and actually talk about your situation. You could relate um, to other people and see what they do if you can gain knowledge, or for example how I gained this information about going on this free trip, and you can gain information about medication, how people feel about certain medication that they're on if
Hmm.
you
Their
are curious about.
experiences. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and it's really been a beneficial thing that I have in my life. TikTok has been amazing, and I'm on it every day now, so.
It's so important for our mental health to know that there's people out there that understand that we can talk to because, most of us don't, even if we're out there in the world working still. I mean, most of your coworkers don't have MS, and even if they do, most of them aren't going to talk about it, and you really can't talk to anybody. And when you can find that community on TikTok and you can go on there and talk to Debbie out in Colorado, or Trina down in Tennessee, or you can go across the seas and talk to Katie over in the UK, and we all have MS, and we all understand. It doesn't matter where you live. We understand what you're going through, and it is so important to have that community.
It really is. And like knowledge is really power. The more you know about this disease, the more you could conquer it. I believe the more happy days you could have, as soon as you find out how you could adapt to this disease and move forward with life and have a good social network like the group on TikTok, How I Met You. You could really grow with these people, and now certain people on the app are starting to actually meet each other in real life and travel to each other and help each other out. And I think that's so wonderful. And how there's someone here locally that I was introduced to this last couple of days. His name is Adam. He's here in
MS with
Genesee County.
MS with the raw
Yep.
MFer. Yep, I recorded with Adam, man. What an awesome, awesome dude. I actually, my wife and I drove up to Flint, Michigan in May of last year and went to his little fundraiser that he had, and it was an awesome time. I got to meet about 5 people off of TikTok, and they got to put my Rose Bowl rings on, my Big Ten championship rings, and take pictures, and it was just an awesome, awesome time. And next year, I know you met Adam, and you're planning on going to it, so I'm going to get to meet you. And I just hope I get to meet a lot of other people at that event in Flint, man. It's just an awesome thing when you get to meet people that you're talking with on TikTok, and you can hook up with them. Debbie out in Colorado, she's hooked up with a few people in the community and on trips. She just got back from a trip that she went and visited somebody. I mean, it's just so awesome to see all of us come together somehow and meet up, and it's just an awesome thing, Mahmoud.
Oh yeah, literally while I was on the live, someone was on the way to someone else, um, uh, and visiting her because she had a hard time. Her name was Melly, I think, and she was having a hard time. And during the live, someone was actually like, "Hey, I'm on my way. I'm an hour away." And I was like, "Oh, this is very wonderful. Like you guys are next to each other and communicating, and you're on live, and we're discussing how we could help her situation and whatnot. She had um, trouble with temperature regulation. There's a lot of hidden things that people don't really understand with MS, like the silent things that we go through, like temperature regulation, how we're very heat sensitive or sensitive to the cold. I'd like to get that out there on your podcast as well. It's very important that,
Mhm.
people understand people that with MS, we are very sensitive to heat.
Or
And
light,
then
or light.
this,
I know I've talked to
yeah,
MSers that they can't be out in bright sunlight. They can't see flickering lights. If they go somewhere and there's a fan going, just a ceiling fan.
yeah,
I mean the sensory issues. I mean, there's so many different things that people experience, and I learned from everybody that I record with, Mahmoud. I mean, because my MS is my MS, and it's different from yours. It's going to be different from Debbie's in Colorado.
right.
But I learned that there's it how it affects other people, and I wish that just society and the world in general just learned about chronic disease and how it affects people, whether it's POTS or fibromyalgia or MS or whatever it may be. I mean, just educate yourself about what it's like living with this disease, and hope that you never get it, but understand what it's like to live with it.
That's right. That's right. And also get to know your body and make sure that you're feeding yourself a good nutrition and have good vitamin D, a big factor correlation we were talking about on TikTok live earlier was vitamin D levels and how many people that get diagnosed with multiple sclerosis have deficiency in vitamin D. And it's important to get your blood work done, check on yourself. Just because you're young and you haven't had any issues, life can change in overnight. I mean, I woke up blind in one eye at a very young age, and it could happen to any of us. And it's
Can
important to get that out there.
Yeah,
Just know that anything could happen overnight, and just be strong when things do happen. Reach out to people. Um, Socialize, talk about your problem. Don't hide and isolate yourself and go into a deep state of depression and not get out and talk to someone like a doctor or a therapist. A big part of this journey of mine was my depression, my mental state of mind, and I'd like to discuss that. And I
absolutely.
have,
I think that
yeah, I have. Go
Mahmoud,
ahead.
I honestly think that is, and we talked about this before we recorded. I think that's the hardest part of this journey for me. My 27 going, I call it 28 years now. The physical part sucks, but the mental part is the hardest part. Because you never get a break from it. The physical part, you might get a little bit of a break from a little bit of the pain, or the vision comes back, the use of your hand comes back, but the mental never leaves. You wake up with it and you go to sleep with it, and it's there every minute in between.
That's right. That's right. And I've struggled with this, and I've did some research, and most people with MS, and we can agree as a group when we get together, have some type of depression or anxiety issues going on. Uh, and it's very important that people understand that it comes with the disease because there's no cure, and I don't think it gets any better. We just have medication to slow it down. We don't have any medication to actually repair the
But
damage that
yeah,
MS,
yeah, the
the myelin
mileage.
sheath.
Yeah.
Yes, to regenerate that to get that back. We don't have. I don't think there is a treatment. Is there something like that? Or
There's nothing that I've heard of. I mean,
right.
I've been told since I got diagnosed in 1997 there were 3 DMTs, and I was told that the cure was, within 10 years. Here I am 28 years later, and there's no cure, but there's a lot more DMTs. And I appreciate that. There's a lot more choices, but there's nothing to cure this disease. You got to learn how to manage it. I mean, that's the best we got right now is you got the DMTs and you got to learn how to manage it and you got to learn how to manage the mental part of it. I think that's the most important part of it. I mean, everything else, it's a flip of the coin, whether or not you're even going to be able to get out of bed in the morning or even talk in the morning. You just got to manage all the mental part and just keep on going and live it day by day and take everything that you have. And like you said, I mean, you're 37 years old and you got 2 years until you're 39 and you're taking advantage of that program, because you might not be able to do it in 5 years. Well, you won't be able to do it in 5 years because of your age, but you might not be able to do it, whenever. So do it now, whenever you can. Whatever you can with this disease and use it to the best of your ability until you can't anymore.
That's right. And part of the challenge with MS, I was discussing with my neurologist, is the whole unpredictability part of it. Like it's so unpredictable. You know what I mean? Like we don't. How do you plan for a future? Um, and strive to look forward and have a beneficial, a good future ahead of you when you don't know how your health is going to be like. If you're going to be using a cane or a walker, or God forbid, a wheelchair, I'd hate to say it, but that's the reality here. Some of us
Yeah.
go into a wheelchair, and that's
That's another mental struggle right there, Mahmoud.
right.
I mean, we haven't even talked mobility aids. I mean, you're not really there yet. That's probably why we haven't talked about it much. But I mean, that's another mental battle in this journey too. When I started having to use a cane, when I had to use a rollator, I struggled. When had to use a wheelchair, I struggled. I still struggle a little bit, but not nearly as well like I used to because I still want to do things, and if it means getting in a wheelchair to go and do something, I'm okay with doing it now. But it's a struggle just in the head to get to that point.
I definitely agree with you. It's been a mental struggle, but the best advice I can give to people if they're listening to us on this podcast, just don't give up. Don't worry too much. I just asked Debbie, what is the best advice you can give me, given that I just been diagnosed with this chronic illness, MS, 5 years ago, and you've had it for over 20 years. And she told me, don't worry. Like in the beginning, you could worry a lot, and it really takes a toll on you. Stress management is very important when it comes to MS healthy lives. Like if you don't control your stress, you could really damage yourself, and go into a bad state of mind and
Yeah.
physically end up worse than you were before. And you could also trigger a relapse, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's something else I want to discuss is that when I was getting diagnosed back in 2021,
Hmm.
I was in a very stressed state of mind. So I was very stressed out while I had COVID back then. And had I known stress, how stress affects you so much. Had I known that, I would have definitely found out some way to meditate or pray or just chill out, and not worry so much. And I advise so many people today, like, hey, I triggered this. I believe it was a combination of many things, environmental factors, possibly genetic and whatnot. But in my heart, I really believe that I triggered this internally because I was stressed out,
Yeah.
or that's a big factor into my diagnosis. And
I,
just
I,
not stressing out would have helped me out a lot. And maybe I wouldn't have MS had I not stressed out so much.
I agree with you, Mahmoud. I went through the exact same thing when I was getting diagnosed. I was going through planning a wedding with my fiance. I was going through that stress. And that was, that's what triggered my symptoms and all that. I started tripping and, stress is my number one enemy when it comes to my episodes. Any of my episodes in my 28 years have been stress related, whether it has been family or employment or just my health. I mean, stress has been my worst enemy. I've gone into episodes because of stress, holidays, the stress of holidays. Just you can almost set a clock to my episodes when it was holiday time, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Yep, I'm going in and getting Medrol right around that time. Just about every every 2 years. Yeah, it was stress. Stress is so difficult with managing this disease. Stress can take you out. However, you can figure out how to relieve stress, whether it's finding art or finding, like I found podcasting as my stress reliever, just being able to do something and feel a part of the community still, because I don't work. And some people, they find other ways to occupy their time. And you got to find a way. You got to find a way to occupy your time if you don't have the ability to work anymore.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I found out like I like to go out and go to the park sometimes every once in a while, and while I have my mobility, I have to take advantage of these years and go out and do my thing and
Hmm.
just be happy while I have most of these things in my life, like a good family, a good social circle, a good friendship, great neighbors, um, things like that. It's very important to have great people in your life. You don't let evil people in your life or someone that doesn't understand MS get to you because um, I believe if you have good people around you, you could live a good life.
I believe it too. I believe it. If there's anything else that you want to tell anybody that's out there in a similar situation, Mahmoud, as you, they're newer in their diagnosis, they're young in their diagnosis, they're scared, they lost their vision, what would you want to say to them, just to let them know that the sun's going to come up in the morning and they're going to be all right?
MS is not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. It's not gonna kill you, you know. And nowadays, with the advanced medication that we have, um, with DMTs, we could definitely slow things down a lot more than back in the day. And
Yeah.
like how you discussed, you were diagnosed over 20 years ago, and back then, a neurologist didn't have really a clue or an idea what MS was, and there had only limited medications.
Hmm.
What were you on, Brian?
My
That
f-
you
my first one was Avonex, and then I didn't do well on that one, and there were only three to choose from, and then I went to Copaxone after that. And I think the neurologist knew what MS was, but I don't think they understood it as much as they do today. I think that the research has done a lot of good things as far as understanding, how it affects how it affects our body. I think there's a lot more answers now. There's not a cure, and I don't know when there's going to be one. I hope it's tomorrow. And I hope it's as soon as we possibly can get it, because everybody in the world that suffers from this disease is really needs it bad. I mean, it's just going on too long, man. We need to find something to stop this disease and just stop it in its tracks and stop people from losing lives and careers. And I mean, it's just too many things just get lost with chronic disease, and we just got to figure out how to stop this thing.
That's right. Or make the ride a little bit more gentle. It's going to be a rough ride for all of us, but we can figure out ways to make things a little bit better to pass our time with great folks like yourself or social media nowadays and having good medication, steady medication, good doctors behind you that support you.
Yeah.
It's very important. And I also want to give advice to those who are newly diagnosed, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to cry,
Mm.
but that in the long run, it's not healthy to be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. We have good social gatherings through social media, TikTok, and people that I've met locally now because of this. Adam, I'm look forward to meeting him, and that could really be beneficial for a lot of us and getting together and spreading awareness. And what you're doing here on this podcast is just amazing. I love what you're doing. I really applaud you, and I'm glad I got to meet you and be on this wonderful podcast and for the world to hear about our journey and what we're going through is very important. And I admire what you're doing, and I hope you could keep doing this on and get great guests on here to gain knowledge and spread awareness about multiple sclerosis.
Man, I appreciate you, Mahmoud. I mean, I'm like speechless right now. All those kind words that you're saying. That's all I want. I just want people to understand this disease, and I really appreciate you, my brother, for joining me today and just sharing your journey. I cannot wait to meet you next year when Adam does his thing up there in Flint. I'm really looking forward to it. I've met another U of M grad, and I really appreciate you. Go Blue. Yeah, I love everything that you're about, my friend. We had a great conversation yesterday. I learned so much from you, and I just really appreciate you for sharing your journey with me.
Thank you so much. I look forward to having this friendship of ours blossom and grow together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can find me at MS Michigan Man 64. You can also find me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64, and I'm on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share it out. Till next episode, this is the MS Michigan Man 64. I am out.